Good. I hate to tell you, they're good.
You know, they're okay. For the people that are nerdy enough to like them, they're okay, you know. So, hey, so we are recording. So, for the audience listening, we have John Habeck on, and he is the CEO and founder of Motive, if I got that correct, did I?
That's correct. Yeah.
Cool. So we got him on. Super excited about this, and I wanted to queue up John with some questions, keep it conversational. But for audience members that are unfamiliar with Motive, personally, in my last 15 years in the auto space, I view Motive as the probably website vendors for auto are tough, right? There's a lot of moving parts. Depends on manufacturer. You have co-op regulations, compliance regulations, all this yellow and red tape. The one thing I really like about Motive is the speed to market, the user experience, usability. I think you guys are some of the top quality and quickness, which I've always valued, and that's why with our workings together on some big dealer groups, I think that having this conversation was cool. So I'd love to start with how did you end up in this business? Did you have it by blood? Because a lot of people have it by blood, as I did. Or did you just kind of happenstance come about into the business? How did you end up in the tier three automotive, tier two, tier one, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah. It's a good question. Thanks for the kind words. So I got into the business as a high schooler. Um, I didn't know anything about cars or car dealerships, but I was like a hobbyist photographer in high school, and I got a job as the inventory photographer for two stores in my hometown when I was 16. So I was a Dodge store and a Hyundai store. Uh, and that was pretty sweet, as you can imagine, being a 16-year-old, particularly on the Dodge side, because that was around the time that Hellcat was sort of getting inserted into everything. So, being a 16-year-old, having a really cool owner that lets you take the keys and drive the car wherever you want to go get some sweet photos was a pretty awesome experience. So um, I don't know any other high schoolers that had the chance to drive a Dodge Demon or a Grand Cherokee Hellcat or really any Hellcat. That was pretty nice.
Yeah,
That was
that's
also
pretty badass. Yeah.
it was cool. It was cool. It's the coolest job I've ever had. I would be just as happy if I had never left that job. Um, but it was also around the time that Hyundai and Genesis were starting to um, pull themselves out of the ashes, so to speak. So like Hyundai had just kind of escaped that Sonata disaster from the early 2010s. Their cars were getting better. Genesis was starting to become a real brand. It had finally been separated from Hyundai. And so I just got to drive and take photos of a ton of cars. Um, and uh, and it also gave me a really interesting perspective on the business. I got to interact with every department, from sales to service to finance to detailing to everything. Right, I got to interact with all of those parties, and I'm not sure if there's another role besides a management role that would have done that for me. So I kind of got to be like a fly on the wall. My desk was in the middle of the sales tower. I just got to listen all day to what people were talking about, and never sold cars. Never really felt that calling. Um, and then whenever I left to start a company, um, by that time I had gotten pretty good at other things that are digital related. So like running Google Ads campaigns, or um, various like website related things. Like on the side, I was making websites for dentists and golf courses and hotels, and just doing a various assortment of digital things for small businesses. Uh, and so it felt pretty natural for me to try to start a business in the auto industry, because I had that as my prior experience, plus that combined with my sort of miscellaneous skills that I developed over the course of those years. There was a nice synergy. But what was particularly surprising about the auto industry was the website experience. Like I remember pretty vividly, as a photographer, you're pretty detail oriented, and our photos would get, when we uploaded them to the website, would get the aspect ratio would get squished. So maybe I was taking them in 4:3. The website only supported 1:1, and so all the photos were like squished in. And I'm like, there's like $30 million in inventory on this website, and for the life of us, we can't get the photos fixed. And there's all sorts of those little stories of like little frustrations that we had with our website experience. But I think by and large, the most surprising thing was just how painful it was to use as a consumer, and the empathy that we felt for the user when they're trying to navigate a dealership site is very painful. And so it felt like a very fun challenge for me to say, okay, I think there's a world out here where a dealership website not only is easy to use, but is also beautiful and is a pleasure to look at. And that was the original idea for Motive, was that certainly there is a way to make a better looking, better functioning dealership website. And if that is the case, then it is an unequivocal better option to purchase as a dealership. So that was the big bet, is that we could build it and sell it. And I think what changed after we started the company and really started to immerse ourselves in this side of the business is that the scope and scale of the problems that dealerships face that we can help solve is far more profound than what it appears from the outside. I mean, the website itself touches everybody in the value chain, going all the way up to the manufacturers, all the way down to the end user, to the consumer. So you have this sort of vertical chain of stakeholders, and then you also have this horizontal chain of stakeholders where the website touches almost every department in the dealership, from finance to sales to service to parts. Everybody has a stake in it. And so for problem solvers like we are, having a product that has the opportunity to work with that many different solution sets is very, very exciting. And we just got addicted right away. So that was how the black hole got me, and now it sucked us in and kept us there.
As it does. No,
it does.
That's pretty cool, because, when you think about it from the vertical and horizontal landscape, it really is the central hub of everything. From every department, whether they're intricate and have intense knowledge of how websites work, to the people that have very limited knowledge on how websites work or digital ecosystems work. And you hit the nail on the head. There is so much latency, I don't know, in this industry as a whole. And to have the pictures not form right for millions, tens of millions of dollars of inventory just doesn't make any sense from a marketing perspective. And
no, it doesn't. And I mean, not to beat a dead horse, but I mean, the inventory, the sum value of all the inventory is just the start of it all. But I mean, think about if it's a picture of a Hellcat, think about the R&D dollars that went into making that car beautiful. I mean, we have designers that get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year that sit in Detroit or in Italy designing these cars. And then you have the tens or hundreds of millions of dollars they spend on tooling the factories to make the car and to market the car. All the people that spend their life's work to build this car. And then when it comes to the point of sale and we're retailing this car online, we're merchandising the car online, and it's virtually impossible to get a photo that is not blurry or not squished on your website. It's like they're dropping the ball at the most important point, when prior to that in the value stream, there was hundreds of millions of dollars invested to make that car look great.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And there's so many challenges. Now, you have a lot of competitors. You know, you have competitors like Dealer Inspire, Dealer.com, Dealer On, Dealer eProcess. Those are the big dogs. Maybe a Team Velocity too. They're more an all-in-one solution. You know, how would you articulate that in your words? How Motive differs from the rest? Of course, I have my own thoughts, and I've articulated it on this channel before, but I'm curious about how you would describe that.
Yeah. Well, part of the fun thing about this is what I just told you, which is that there's so many stakeholders involved in the website, which allows us to have really nice positioning for everybody that's involved in the website, from the manufacturer down to the dealer to the consumer. There's reasons why we're better for each one of those people. But at risk of being overly verbose, the key thing that differentiates us is that we provide retailers and dealers everything that they need to offer their customers that big box, beautiful customer experience out of the gate, right? So our platform is built to be easy to use, fast, and look great. And so if you're a dealer that's been frustrated for years and you can't really put your finger on why you don't like your website, but you just never have, that's what we solve for you. And on top of that, the problem that website providers get into, not only in our industry, but in any industry, by the way, there's website providers for every industry, whether you're funeral homes or you're a government agency or you are a restaurant or a golf course. There are vertical specific website providers, and all of them make the same mistake, which is that they overinvest in the professional services side of their business, which is like SEO, paid media, TV ads, whatever it is that they do as a professional service, and that degrades the overall product. And so we've proudly been exclusively a website provider since day one. We've never done Google ads or SEO as a service, because truthfully, what we're providing to dealers is a really, really great software product. We are not a services company. And what that creates, the problem that creates for website providers of any type, is that it essentially splits their business into two. It makes it enormously complicated because, as you know, David, running a professional services company is very difficult, right? You're doing digital marketing, you're managing client relationships. That's way different than what it's like to run a software company. And having that divergence, it basically kills companies. It makes them fall apart internally and externally. And I'm sure a lot of dealers that are listening to this can see that from the externals, that something is not working at these companies. It's because their business is too complex. So to summarize, we provide an excellent customer experience, both for your consumers and for you as the dealer to create and manage your website. And then we also focus exclusively on providing a great website, which means that we have your interests alone in mind. There's no competing interests that we have for to prop up any other side of our business.
You know what? That's interesting. And your thoughts, I can echo in my own, because coming from a full service agency side, that was my upbringing, if you will, into, it was everything digital, traditional, one-stop shop. When you are a one-stop shop, you can't really be great at anything. You dilute yourself, like you said. And I've seen some of the bigger website providers, going in with them, do the same thing. They try and, value stack other services because it's other income streams essentially to their business. But essentially what that does is it dilutes it so much. So I respect that.
Yeah.
And that's hard to make that choice too, because you can justify the other way. You can justify and say, well, we're the website. We should do all the marketing too because we connect to everything. So there are a lot of differences of opinion on how that goes, but it seems as though from an outside perspective, you guys staying in the website lane and you've been able to just better serve it. And I'll give you a little bit of feedback from the dealer perspective, because I represent dealers in essence, where I've had to work with website companies and fulfill tickets and facilitate stuff. I mean, the difference is I just spent on another site, dealer.com. I wanted to change something for our inventory feed that just moved the stock number around, essentially. It took 5 days, 10 plus emails, and 2 phone calls in order to get it right. Where when I went to you guys for very, very similar things, because you guys have modern communications, like a Slack channel and things like that these other companies don't. So you guys would take care of that in, I don't know, less than 10 minutes at some points. I'm not going to guarantee that all the time, but like just that part, the expediency of service, I think makes a humongous difference, especially when, let's face it, websites can often be viewed as a commoditized product, just like digital ads can be viewed as a commoditized product. So what can separate you? The service that you provide too. So maybe you could touch on that a little bit for the viewers and what that means to you.
Yeah. There's really two important things with service that come to mind. The first one is that we are a customer-centric company, and that's a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, but internally means something very specific to us, which is that we operate with the customer's desires and best interests in mind with every decision that we make, and that's the core of customer centricity. And how that materializes is that behind the scenes, we are advocates for our customers. Like, we're fighting for our customers. If you were to ask for something from us that maybe like we don't have the capability of doing today, but there's a rational reason for why that needs to be done. There's a good business case for you, the dealer, that needs to be done. We're fighting internally, whether that's with a third party bottleneck to get that done, or even with internal teams, like if it requires engineering or additional operational work to complete your request, we fight for that internally. We advocate for our clients, because we're all personally accountable for the success of our customers. So whether it's somebody in our finance department, or somebody that is an engineer, or a salesperson, or a designer, it doesn't matter. Everyone is personally accountable for whether or not the customer is successful. So you can kind of feel that, hopefully, through interactions with us. That's the philosophical kind of thought, but the more operationally specific tidbit that I'll add is that we built our platform to be self-service. Our original vision was that in order for you to get a change in for your website, you have to put in a change request, which, if you've ever done custom software engineering before, like, you ever paid someone to build something for you, like a software development company, a change request, you write up the document, the PRD, you submit it to the company, they come back with a quote, how long it'll take, how much it'll cost, you sign off on the change request, and then they'll deliver this to you. And it's more or less what putting in a ticket with an incumbent website provider is like. Is you put in a ticket, you go a little bit back and forth to scope it out, and it takes a few weeks to get done. All of that's because it actually does require, in most cases, people to write code to get your thing done for you. But we built our platform with the idea that dealerships be able to do that themselves, because the fastest support person is yourself. I mean, it's a saying that's as old as time. You know, if you want it done right, do it yourself. That's kind of the guiding principle for our portal. So if you log into our backend portal where you can modify things, it's just very easy to do all of this stuff. And that perspective allows not only our retailers, our customers to make those changes very rapidly, but also we do what's called dog fooding, which is we use our own product. We eat our own dog food. And so everything has to be really fast and easy for our own support team to use. So just as fast as it is for us to do things, it's just as fast for you.
Makes sense. No, I like it. So those are some of the softer questions. I got to ask some hardballs too.
Sure. Let's hear it.
How are you guys going to be able to, this is kind of a twofold question. So the first part is maybe it's, what's the vision? What's the ultimate goal? Because a lot of companies will start, especially in this space, and the idea is to develop it to a certain point and get eaten up by one of the big guys, Cox or, Cars Commerce or whatever. So, what's the ultimate scope for you? But the challenging part of that is how the hell are you guys going to scale and keep the same level of service and customization? So kind of a two-pronged question.
A couple of good questions. So ultimately, our vision is to have a role in almost every single car purchased in the U.S. and Canada every year. So we think that consumers that shop for their car on a dealership website that's powered by Motive ultimately have a better experience. That's our belief. They likely come out on the other side of that transaction feeling slightly more happy than they would otherwise. And so with that, we just want to promulgate that experience to as many consumers as possible. So if we're impacting 60 to 80% of consumer journeys every year, then I think that's a win for us. Now, like what that leads into your next question pretty seamlessly, because that would imply that we're servicing the majority of dealers in order to reach that many consumers, and how we plan to scale. Well, there's the obvious answer, and then there's the slightly non-obvious answer to that. The obvious answer is that we have an excellent team, particularly our customer success and leadership team has done this before and knows how to build success teams at scale, and what changes over time. So we're not too intimidated by the sort of personnel requirements of it all. We feel pretty confident about our ability to grow that team. The non-obvious answer is that we're sort of betting on a larger shift. A couple of things are.
Sauce. What do you got?
A couple of things are happening at the same time right now, and you could call that like fast-moving water, so to speak. When you're a company and you're in slow-moving water, or the water isn't moving around you at all, it's really hard to do anything because there's nothing carrying you. You're just like, you have to affect every change. So you really want to be in fast-moving water, because that's when it doesn't matter so much your execution, because the water is sort of taking you in certain directions, and make things a little bit easier. So like a good example of that, like to draw a parallel, is AI, obviously, right? So AI is very fast-moving water. So any company that's in that space, that's operating in that space, is already moving quickly just by nature of being in that space. Execution matters slightly less. There's some fast-moving water that we're betting on that impacts our ability to scale more easily. The first one is that manufacturers are aggressively digitizing everything about their companies. We're at a point where the investment that manufacturers are putting to digitize everything about their customer journey is in the hundreds of billions of dollars, all the way at the manufacturing level, by making their vehicles more modern, but also at the retail experience level. Toyota, SmartPath, Lexus with Monogram, BMW has something that they're working on. A lot of companies are investing in the retail experience from a digital perspective, and how that makes scaling our business easier is that it's our belief that when we build a platform that serves the needs of the consumer, then we can partner with OEMs more rapidly and at a deeper level to empower their dealers with really, really amazing online experiences that are maybe not as typical as most of the website provider relationships with OEMs. So instead of the typical model of scaling in the industry as a tech company, where auto tech companies go from door to door, so to speak, and acquire a business, we think that there's opportunities for companies to acquire larger pieces of the market more simply through the OEM.
Through the OEM.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's an interesting philosophy. I understand, and I take your fast-moving water example as what's the biggest thing that's going to help get more business? It's always the market. And it kind of relates back to a story I heard where, if you're a hot dog stand, what's the biggest thing that you want to feel that has the most impact? Is it the ingredients? Is it the way you cook the dog? Is it whatever? Or is it that you want to be outside a stadium and you're the only hot dog stand in town and everybody just got out of the game,
Yeah. Yeah, you don't need to do much when you're the only hot dog stand outside the stadium. You don't have to have a cool stand. You don't have to talk about what brand of hot dogs you use or how nicely you prepare them.
None of it.
None of it's a lot easier. And there's so many analogies like that in our space, but in any space too.
Yep, and I take that as that's helped my business scale as well. Same methodology. You got to reach people in a different type of way where not everybody's investing in. So,
yep.
I can
Well,
understand that.
you ever go to like Florida or any beachy area, and there's the piers that go out into the ocean, and you look out there, and you got 200 people fishing on that pier, and it's like, what are they expecting to catch? There's 200 people fishing there, and it's like, it's the same thing here. There's so many people fishing in this particular space. You've really got to carve out a unique strategy to experience any growth at all and to stall out. It's not your fault. It's the market's fault.
100%. Yep. Finding a niche that way. Cool. Are you hard pressed for a stop time? When's your stop time?
I got a little bit more time.
Okay. Yeah, me too. So many questions. We can go all day. Here's another challenge though. In my business, right, the services business, I call it really digital services. It started with Google Ads, paid search. It ramps up into content building. I don't want to be the jack of all trades because I feel like we'll not be the masters of them. We want to be the master of the trade that's the smallest hinge that swings the biggest door. What's the littlest thing we can do to make the most impact? One thing in a lot of research we've been doing is all about what you mentioned, AI, and how that's going to impact the search market and all that good stuff. One of the things that we find is, and I've had this experience myself, is I haven't really put any real development to my own website. I do it all based on brand, meaning, other segments of market that don't even include marketing on a website or to a website. How do you think the future of AI being found will change the way consumers behave with a website? Will they still use a website the same way we use it now? Or how do you view them using it differently, if at all, moving forward?
Look, the top 2,000 websites with the most traffic every year, like starting with like Google at number one, going down to something else at number 2,000. The top 2,000 websites generate the majority of website traffic today. This is like even before ChatGPT. So I mean, you're looking already at an internet landscape where, truthfully, the value of local websites is fairly degraded by the aggregator sites, and that's true for every industry. It's true for travel, for hospitality, for restaurants, for car dealers. Certainly, I mean, this would be cars.com or AutoTrader. I mean, it's just the way the consumers behave these days. They do not go to local websites without a reason to go. So, do I think AI is going to like reverse that trend? No. What's not totally clear is if it will make it any worse, at least in the near term. So, I mean, I think dealership websites in this context are fairly protected in the near term. But I think we can look at what's happening in e-commerce as a canary in the coal mine, so to speak, which is that people are buying things through these AI systems, through ChatGPT or Perplexity or Gemini. They have e-commerce capabilities. I don't think that we're going to be at the transactional point with automotive anytime soon in AI, but do I think that one of the major aggregators is going to strike a deal with the AIs, one or more of them? Absolutely. So I think if we're talking about like 1 to 2 year expectations here for the internet, I'm sure that LLM visibility will be something that AutoTrader or CarGurus, Carfax charge dealers for, and you can expect to pay more for that service. And it'll probably be a good service that probably should be paid for, because those services have access to millions of cars, and so it makes sense for them to partner with ChatGPT and get their inventory in there. That being said, we've analyzed all of our traffic and continue to do so, and we see very little activity from any LLM.
Yep.
It's less than 1% platform wide, which is small, but I would like to note that before ChatGPT and excluding social media, there is literally no other way that people get to your website besides Google and Bing. As a car dealer. Like if you look at the ways people get to your website, it is either Google or Bing, if you exclude social media. And it has been that way for decades. And maybe Yahoo sprinkled in there in certain periods over the past 20 years, but for the most part, the search engine as a medium was the only way that people found your website. So while 1% or less than 1% seems insignificant today, I think it's actually pretty shocking considering that nothing else, no other medium has ever contributed to website traffic broadly. And AI has been able to do that in very little time. So in the course of when it became mainstream a couple of years ago to now, reaching that big of a percentage share of overall traffic referral sources is pretty fascinating. And I think if that trend continues and it gets up to 3 or 5%, suddenly we've got a real player in that world. So it remains to be seen, but what role LLM discovery will play in the overall makeup of your website's traffic, and it also remains to be seen if that is even a factor. It probably won't be if AutoTrader, CarGurus, etc., integrate with the LLMs. And then just like how we're addressing it internally, and our role in all of that is still just focusing on the fundamentals that have always been true about discovery on the web. Not much is different with AI versus regular SEO. They're like under the hood, an LLM, when it's searching the internet just using the Bing API or the DuckDuckGo, actually even DuckDuckGo uses Bing. So it's like mostly using the Bing API to get search results through ChatGPT. So if you're just regularly optimized for search, you should be fine for now until there's some other alternative method that they obtain these search results and rank and index them. I think if we start seeing ChatGPT come up with their own web index, then LLM SEO is going to be a real thing. Until then, it's mostly just regular SEO.
Yeah, fundamentals pay off. Fundamentals always pay off. So it's an interesting perspective, but that's great. That's a great segue. As we wrap up here, any other final thoughts, comments, questions, anything else you want to touch
on? I'll say less than necessary. So no, I have nothing else.
Yeah, minimalist at heart.
That's right.
Minimalist at heart. So that's cool. We can go on all day about different topics like this, but it's refreshing. It's refreshing to get somebody that is more youthful minded about websites, about automotive. I don't think there's enough of that in the industry. I can't think of many off the top of my head. So, the new phase has begun. So if anyone out there is interested in John Habeck's company, Motive, what they're about, you could visit motivehq.com. And, that's pretty much it. And I guess one final question. How many clients you guys up to now, roughly?
More than 400, less than 1,000.
Okay, more than 401. No, more than 400, less than 1,000. I mean, that's significant. That's significant. So I love it. You guys are big enough to where you should start to be taken seriously, and then also nimble enough to be able to provide the service. So I can relate. Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, I think
it's a pleasure. Nice to see you.
Thanks, John.
See you.